5 houses, became financially free, 7-figure net worth by 26. Real estate's just the opportunity to create the life you want.
Doing the thing that you think you should do, but you don't associate yourself with someone who does that stuff.
You think you know it all until you really, put something under contract, put down the earnest money.
And you really were bootstrapping this thing. I could envision myself just like kind of riding along with you guys and like going through the motions of finding the first deal, the second, the third.
My day job being a realtor, I work with a lot of out-of-state investors, coastal markets that are like, hey, you can buy a duplex in Kansas City for $200K.
If you could pinpoint what the thing is that keeps you motivated, that is like the reason behind doing what you do.
The big thing in the storage industry over the last couple of years is moving towards kind of remote management, right? Yeah, you don't need somebody on site.
Steven, officially welcome to the Wealth Juice podcast. We are so excited to have you on the show today, man. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, gentlemen, thanks for having me. I'm excited about it.
Absolutely. So let's dive into your story. Maybe take us back down memory lane to pre-real estate, if there is a pre-real estate, and then, hit us with your light bulb moment when you realized real estate would be part of your future.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm just a Midwest kid here, born and raised in St. Louis, pretty standard route, went to a state college here in Missouri. I was actually in the nursing program, so pre-nursing, got my bachelor's of nursing. Grew up in a W-2 family, so that whole route. In college, somebody had mentioned Bigger Pockets to me, obviously a huge real estate platform. Kind of started digging into it, listening to the podcast, reading the books, and it kind of just clicked. So yeah, got the bachelor's of nursing, moved here to Kansas City, started with a house hack, and then just started building a portfolio from there. And long story short, fast forward, nowadays we have 7 self-storage facilities, 5 houses, became financially free, 7-figure net worth by 26. Yeah, real estate's just the opportunity to create the life you want. So
I want to talk about how this actually came to be. That was a pretty nonchalant way of saying all that. Like there's so much to unpack there of what you've done. House hack was the way I got started. I could not recommend that highly enough to somebody in their 20s. I would do it every single year in my 20s if I could go back. So that to me makes sense how you got started. But talk to us about like steps 2, 3, and 4. You've done a lot in your 20s, more than most. So I want to know like maybe like some of the how-to of, okay, I bought the house hack, but then what? Because most people buy the house hack and they run out of money. Then they don't know what to do. Yeah,
absolutely. And, full transparency, I've since quit nursing. I am a full-time realtor here in Kansas City. So I love it too. The house hacking is a huge strategy to get started. And I try and help as many clients as possible do it here in KC. So yeah, you don't have much money coming out of college. So I had to, call as many lenders as I could to try and get that first house. Didn't know much about Kansas City, basically followed my now wife, who was my girlfriend at the time here. So a whole new city. You listen to the podcast, you read the books, you think you know it all until you really, put something under contract, put down the earnest money, make it happen and make it come to fruition. But yeah, 3% down conventional loan back in 2019 when I was 23 years old is how I got started. Had a couple buddies that were finishing up college there in Kansas City. So they basically rented rooms from me. I didn't do like the duplex or the small multi-route. I started with a single family. So 3% down, literally like $4,000 out of pocket to get that first deal. Basically, $400 a month in rent from the roommates is covering the mortgage. Started working full time as a registered nurse here in Kansas City. Started just saving every penny I could because I knew I just wanted to keep buying houses, keep buying real estate. It helps a lot, obviously, lowering the expenses of not having a mortgage. So bought the first one, 8 months later, ended up buying another house, basically kind of an off market from a wholesaler, live-in fixer-upper, moved in with that to, once again, my now wife. So then you have the one rental, you have the one house, and then, yeah, once again, kind of just got the bug from there, kept nursing, kept saving as much as I could, just dumping it all into real estate. So
there's only 2 things I know about Kansas City. One is that real estate is way cheaper than it is in Philadelphia. And 2, the birds basically ruined the dynasty of the Chiefs. So those are only 2 things that I know. And I say that tongue in cheek because anytime I get to talk to someone from Kansas City, I have to talk shit just because of what happened in the Super Bowl a couple months ago. So
totally understandable. I get it.
All right, cool. So I want to talk about the self-storage then, like the you did actually, it's funny, Steven, you did what I did. I didn't have a duplex or triplex. I bought a 3-bed, 2-bath, and I lived in one of the bedrooms, and my buddies, I was 26, but my buddies rented the other rooms for me, and I lived for free. And I was like, man, this is really the thing, right? Like, so if you're single, even if you're not single, but if you're single, like, you can get away with it. So, you save that money. It sounds like it started from a season of like frugality and just like hunkering down and doing everything you could to save up money. But then you got into self-storage, which really seemed to expedite this process. Like, how did you even find self-storage? Like, just talk to us about the inception of how that came into your portfolio.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, like you said, I mean, I'm now, married, living with my wife, but if I could, I'm 29 now, you know, happily married, happy in our house together. But if I could have house hacked as much as I could have, I would have and recommend it to anybody. But yeah, so I bought the first two houses 2019. 2020, I kind of took a hiatus, honestly. Unfortunately, looking back, rates were in the fours, threes, and I wish I would have bought as much as I could. But got the two single family homes, was just saving up cash. I honestly thought I was just gonna, go put 25% down on a multifamily property here in Kansas City. Like you said, Kansas City is a cash flow kind of tertiary, secondary market. Just a low barrier to entry, right? I mean, I'm once again my day job being a realtor. I work with a lot of out-of-state investors, coastal markets that are like, hey, you can buy a duplex in Kansas City for 200K that rents for 2,000 a month. Like, okay, that's a deal. So 2020, started kind of digging into commercial. Once again, still really learned a lot from Bigger Pockets. AJ Osborne's a guy that some people may have heard of. He's a Bigger Pockets guy, and he's honestly a self-storage mogul in the space. So I started reading his book, listening to his podcast. I was like, you drive on the highways, you see the self-storage facilities. And in my mind, I was like, the concept's so simple. It's just metal boxes, right? You're renting out. Of course, how do you actually go purchase one, a full facility? Knew I wanted to get into it, didn't really know what steps it would take. Of course, doing as much research as I could. But 2021, kept buying houses. So I had two more houses, and then I started cold calling self-storage facilities in a market here in Missouri. It's actually 2 hours south of Kansas City, Lake of the Ozarks. It's kind of a vacation place here in Missouri. So cold called, basically looking for facilities. You Google search self-storage facilities in a certain market, looking for the ones with 1-star Google reviews, maybe no website, mom and pop owners. Basically, I got very fortunate looking back. The third or fourth phone call I made, a lady picks up the phone. She was basically running the facility day to day. She was in the office. I was like, any chance you can just give me the owner's cell phone number? Which doesn't happen very often. She's like, yeah, sure, here it is. So called the guy. He was in his late 60s, early 70s. He had two other partners. They were ready to liquidate. Just really good timing. So we went down there. I have a business partner who I own everything 50-50 with. He's actually a cousin of mine. So we went down there. We walked through it. I mean, this first one's 100 and I think 5 units. Some of the units just have trash in it. I think he was doing like 4,000 a month in revenue. From owning single families to doing this, he tells me the number, 330,000 is what he wants. And we look at each other, we're like, that's got to make sense, right? I mean, it's doing 4,000 a month, 330. We have 105 units here for the economies of scale. So we kind of talked to some other people. We're like, does this work? I mean, what are the expenses here? How do we operate this thing? So kind of just bootstrapped it from the beginning. Went into a local bank down there, basically asked, hey, who's the commercial lender here? Can we talk with her? Talked with her. She's like, yeah, we can do 15% down, 20-year amortization. Of course, back then in 2021, the rates were like 4.1, 4.2. So we took it down. Split the down payment 50-50. Of course, 15% down on 330. We still hold that one today. So that's how we got started. Got our feet wet, learned it. We use a software system called Easy Storage Solutions. Kind of just figured it out day by day. We still self-manage. And luckily, once again, that phone call with that first owner, he happened to own another one down the street, took that one down. And, now we're sitting here in April 2025 and we own 7 storage facilities. So that's how we got started. 2021, our first one, up to 7 now. So.
Very cool. I didn't know Rye wanted to jump in, but I got to tell you, man, I think there's something to be said for just like kind of the mindset behind just like doing something that you believe you can do. And I think most people will just stop and they're like, oh, I got to cold call these. Like I got to cold call like random owners. And like you told me something very specific. Oh, I just looked it up on Google and then called the owners. Like, I think people listening are thinking like the thing that they want is on the other side of like sometimes pretty simple tasks, like or just like doing the thing that you think you should do, but you don't associate yourself with someone who does that stuff. It's like you just cold called owners and got deals. And like everyone started with one deal where they had no clue what they were doing. Like everyone did. Like the person that Grant Cardone, who has however many units he had his first big deal. He's like, I probably don't know what I'm doing. And he just figured it out along the way. And I think there's so much in there of just saying like, yeah, I walked into a bank. It's not like you went into the bank and you knew who to talk to. You just asked around of like, who should I talk to? Go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, I want to talk about more of the meat and potatoes of this. I love the story leading up to this, right? Then you leveraged your relationship. You got 2 under your belt. Can you talk to, after acquisition, like how you guys bootstrapped the management? I'm so curious on if you kept the same manager in there, and like who needs to be on your team when you're managing a facility like this, because it's super interesting for Corey and I and other aspiring investors that we have a bunch of single families, we have the multifamilies. Like how can we take down a self-storage just he and I? Who are we going to need to put in certain seats? So break down the management side for me if you could.
Yeah, absolutely. And my business partner and I, we're always trying to build systems a little bit better. Us self-managing, luckily, we're, 2 hours away where it's kind of a vacation spot. So in the summer, we'll go down there. You work from 8 a.m. to noon. We kind of, once again, do some of the maintenance, the walkthroughs, the cleanouts, and then we hop on the boat. So it's a little bit of vacation, a little bit of business in the summer. But yeah, there's the big thing in the storage industry over the last couple of years is moving towards kind of remote management, right? Yeah, you don't need somebody on site, which sounds kind of crazy. So when we bought these first two, yes, they had two, older ladies that were in the office at the other location down the road, basically handling the phone calls, running the day to day. And so we took over the first one. I still carry the second business phone around. I'm still answering phone calls when needed. It's a second job. It really is. This is a delayed gratification play for us, right? I mean, we're keeping it in house. We both know I'm 29. I don't mind answering a few phone calls, mainly around the first and end of the month, collecting rent. But in 3-4 years, do I want to keep doing that? No. So once again, a lot of people are moving towards a call center. If you get a really large facility, like now looking forward, our biggest facility, it's 300 units. We do have an on-site manager there Monday through Friday. That one, she's running the clean out, she's answering the phones, running the payments. So you do need a little bit of help. A big thing is, of course, if you're, not there locally, boots on the ground, having somebody who obviously, we have asphalt facilities, we have gravel facilities. One of our facilities is like 6-acre gravel lot. I mean, the weeds in the summer are insane to keep up with. So having someone who can spray weeds, landscaping, of course, if you can get like a local, a lot of people, old maintenance men or like a veteran who's nearby, local, they can go out, do clean outs, do lockouts, just teaching that system. So it's a lot of boots on the ground locally is what I've seen from other people. Once again, we kind of do a lot of it still ourselves. And as far as the actual software, there's tons of software nowadays. We're big fans of easy storage solutions, very simple to use. And the big thing is now, we have 700 units. We still have a PO box that people can send checks to. We're trying to kind of fade away from that. But really, I mean, probably 75% of our clients, first of the month, a credit card automatically gets ran. So
that's awesome, dude. I'm really thinking about this because I'm super interested in this personally, just based on the management style. And I would probably look to offload management. I guess it just depends on cash flow and like what you need. If you need certain amount to eat, but all of the above, I'm curious on, outside of just, collecting rent, like you handling phone calls, is the management of these units, is it doable? Like, I guess my question is, at what percent or what point will you guys need to offload this to someone else? You have 7 facilities, you have 300 units in one of them, you have another 150 another. I'd imagine like you guys are well over 1,000 units at this point. It's you and a partner. Are there property management companies out there that just handle all this stuff and spit you guys out, a report monthly and handle most of the day to day? Or is it completely different from, single family rentals?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's always a question I get asked, of course, going from the single family space. And then being a realtor, I do a lot of multifamily sales. So I know the management side of it. I mean, obviously, in my mind, and probably most will agree with me in the storage space, it's not as management intensive as like multifamily, right? I mean, these are literal metal boxes we're renting out. People don't live in them. We've had experiences where people do live in them, but that doesn't last long. But they're really putting things in. And then, like here in Missouri, the eviction process, technically the law states 45 days. You can just go cut their lock, auction off their stuff. We work with leeway of like working with payment plans. People get behind, obviously, around the Christmas time, stuff like that. So we work with people, but auctions are a real thing. It's just the eviction process is so much more convenient than like, going to the courthouse, having a sheriff come, literally have to kick a family out of a house. I mean, these people don't pay, we cut the lock. There's usually just trash and junk in them. But yeah, there are standard management companies, like a lot here in Kansas City. Once again, we're 2 hours south. Our market is more of a secondary, tertiary market. Here in Kansas City, you'll see a lot of these like storage marts and kind of the hedge fund tertiary or the hedge fund and institutional players. So those big players, they have those management companies. A lot of us in the tertiary, secondary markets are trying to vertically integrate ourselves. But you could, I mean, like Co-Storage is one I know here locally. I have a buddy from St. Louis who runs a management company. We've talked with him because, yeah, once again, we're getting to the point. I just got married. My business partner just had a newborn child, and he's still a CPA. I'm still a realtor. We're always going to probably keep working for the foreseeable future. And so us having these second jobs, it's something, we're planning. The big thing we have is our biggest storage facility that we own. We did raise capital, and we have about 2.5 years left till that like note is due. So we're trying to once again self-manage, keep all the cash flow in house, get them paid off. We're really trying to burr this massive storage facility, and once they're paid off and we kind of get them off the equity train there, then we'll really look at some options for management, or just once again building a call center, hiring a call center via VAs, and stuff like that. So
Awesome, man. This is I love. It's funny, Ryan mentioned, he's interested in self storage. I am too. It's just we just don't need another dang thing, another strategy
yeah,
to go after right now.
yeah,
But like every time I hear stories like this, I'm like, wow, like this is great. And so we've interviewed a couple people that have talked about self storage, but it's been a while. So what I want to ask is more specifically on like, if you want to take one of your properties, I'm very curious on the numbers of like what a
yeah.
property like this cash flows. Like I know some of it's like, you raise money, so you pay back investors and maybe the cash flow shifts around, but like take one of your properties, for example, and give us an idea of what the type of revenue that's generated from one of these self-storage units.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The whole oversight of our portfolio. We own 7 self-storage facilities. 6 of them I have with my partner. One I own myself. It's just a smaller one near Kansas City here. So with the 6 of them, we just acquired one actually this earlier this month. So that was our sixth location together. We technically have owned another one that we sold in 1031 into our current ones. But the oversight of the whole portfolio, I mean, we're doing just shy of basically $1 million a year in revenue. But I will break down. I have probably two deals I want to talk about, and I'll try and break it down quickly. So our second storage facility, once again, this was early 2022. The same owner as the first one. We had a better understanding of how the asset class performs, how to manage it, because obviously we had just done this first one. This was probably 4 or 5 months later. He was like, "Well, I'm thinking about selling this other one." So that one we purchased it was once again 100 units. It's about 6 acres, fenced in with a gate. It also came with like a 6,000 square foot warehouse. So basically he wanted 750,000. A lot of money at the time. I was end of 24 years old, early 25-year-old. So a big chunk of change, obviously, for my half of the down payment at the time. So 750,000 for this property. He gives us the rent roll, and he was doing like 10,000 a month. Just from you guys owning real estate yourself, the 1% rule is kind of a thing. This is well above the 1% rule. We kind of look at each other. We're like, okay, yeah, that's a good deal. They still had the 2 managers that they were paying like 2-3 grand a month in payroll. We slowly transitioned to getting rid of them and going full blown remote management. Now that property, does about 13,000, 14,000 a month. So the cash flow on that one, I mean, truly net income after all expenses is about 9,000 a month just on that one property. So 50/50, we're looking at 4 or 5 grand a month each. And so, yeah, I mean, we owe the mortgage on that one at this point. It's probably mid 500s at 14,000 a month in revenue. It's probably worth 1.5 mil. So owning it, 2.5 years, 1 million in equity, that's paying us, 9 grand a month. So
Yeah,
pretty
that's
pretty solid deal. That all came from that first cold call. So there's deals out there.
that's yeah. I mean, dude, that's amazing. That deal is awesome. So, have you found the subsequent deals after the first deals by still doing the cold calling? Have you developed like a cold calling system? Or I'm curious, I know the first couple came from like the first cold call, that owner had another deal. Like, how have you continued to find deals that penciled out? Because I imagine if you're looking at, you have six, you didn't look at six to acquire six, you looked at several more. So, how does the deal acquisition work for you guys these days?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're always chatting about it, right? I mean, it has scaled up pretty quickly in the last couple of years. Um, it's always a thought, and I'm sure you guys have this thought sometimes too. You see these operators that, they may have $100 million portfolio, but they only own a percentage, right? They're raising capital, stuff like that. Whereas, with us doing around 1 million a year in revenue, we have an 8-figure valuation on our portfolio, but we own 100% of it, right? Besides a little bit of capital that we have to pay off here in a couple of years, there's something to say about like a small but mighty portfolio, right? So we're kind of always looking at it of, do we want to keep going? Do we just want to pay down this debt and hire the management and both just, collect our 10,000 a month from just this portfolio, and kind of do our own thing? So yeah, the first cold call, once again, very lucky to find that owner who was ready to kind of retire with his buddies, and sell us those two at, they were like true 16 cap storage facilities, which was just insane. So yeah, got the bug. I was like, okay, love this asset class. Really just honed in on that market. There's a lot of mom and pop owners in that market. So once we got those first two, just kept cold calling, um, and trying to land as many as I could. And so all of our facilities are within like a 10-mile radius of that market. So we definitely have quite a bit of market share. And that is literally just me getting on like a county website, tracking down the LLC owner, finding their number via like fastpeoplesearch.com type thing. And once again, I pick and choose my days to cold call. How big do I want to get? Do I want to expand to different markets at this time? Not necessarily. Kind of slow but steady building it up, but we did scale it pretty quickly. But yeah, after the first two, kept cold calling, landed a few. I mean, a usual timeline is obviously first basis, talking with the owner. Most of the deals that we started talking with the owner, trying to get financials, get what they want out of it valuation wise, and see if it makes sense. We're typically 10 to 12 months, from first conversation to like actually closing a deal. So a lot of these are, the follow up, discussing it, figuring it out. So that's kind of how it's scaled up. And yeah, just took
Yeah.
down a couple of deals from cold calls. So
Love it, dude. I have one for you. I want to unpack deal analysis a little bit. So, for you guys, can you talk about how you know what a good deal looks like, and that if you have a specific buy box, what that is?
yeah, so our buy box obviously is that market down there, just because we know what the rents should be for certain facilities. As far as buy box, these mom and pop owners, and if people are trying to get into the asset class and really trying to build portfolios in secondary, tertiary markets, which a lot of people probably start to have VAs call if they really want to scale something up. These mom and pop owners, even the one we just closed on, the guy was doing paper documentation for like his profit and loss statement, his rent roll. So then you kind of got to move it from paper to an Excel sheet and do your own due diligence. So if you can find an owner who has true financials, that helps a lot. In these secondary, tertiary markets, we really like to see at least like an 8.5 cap. Once again, if they have a true profit and loss statement versus their actual purchase price, that makes it much simpler. And then we like to see a little bit of value add, whether that be just raising rents, decreasing expenses somehow. We're really like go expand. I know if you get on like Crexy or LoopNet, you'll see a lot of these storage facilities that they're like expansion potential. Well, if you're buying a 6 cap, but you still have to expand to make the pro forma work, then you're already, at a 6 cap. The interest rate's probably in the sevens, which is not a good inversion to be at. And then you're spending more money to have to lease it up. So there's a lot that goes into it. And of course, talking with lenders, it never hurts just to get an idea of what the lending's going for. You can obviously do like 12 months interest only if you're having to expand something like that. And then you can always get a feasibility study done if needed to see kind of what the market, supply and demand is, because storage is all supply and demand. The biggest threat to storage is always just more storage. You don't want to be oversupplied because that'll just hurt market rents.
Where do you see, Stephen, the biggest opportunities in self-storage in the next, I don't know, 3 to 5 years? I asked the question because I'm curious if it's part of your strategy to expand. Like, are you looking to grow that side? Is that your focus right now? Or or more so to like maintain and operate the portfolio you have? Like, what's next, or what are you looking to do? And how does that relate to self-storage in general?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We haven't done an expansion. What we did is we have like canopy covered parking, if you've ever seen like RV boat covered parking. So we've spent some money to like enclose some of those units because we kind of felt that our market, a lot of the phone calls we would get, people wanted enclosed units versus just covered parking. So for example, like just a classic value add play, our biggest storage facility we bought, I guess in 2022, end of 2022. We bought this for 3.2 million. We were doing 30K a month when we purchased it. We just looked back at our financials. We've done a couple of rent raises. We enclosed those units. So when we bought it, we were doing 30K a month. Last year we were doing 32K a month. This year we're doing 36K a month. And that's off just like $50,000 in basically updates. Just when you have 300 units in one facility, you go do a $10 rent raise, which is the beauty of storage. These single families, these multifamily units, you're not going to raise the rent $5, $10. You're going to raise it $50, $75, which that one tenant feels a little bit more. We have 700 units. We'll go raise rents $10 towards the end of the year. I mean, that's 7,000 a month in a portfolio like that. So that value add of that, going from 30 to 36,000 a month with unchanged expenses. I mean, that's a million in equity at a 7.5 cap. So that's a huge value add play there. I think if you listen to the data and everybody talking about it, obviously interest rates have played a huge factor. Some of these people who have built or purchased in the last couple of years and they have, the fours and interest rate in the fours. If that loan's coming due, I mean, that's going to double. We just experienced it on our first one. I mean, we bought it 2021. We had like a 4.1 percent interest rate. I mean, now it's 7.5. So,
Yep.
we bought it at such a deep discount that it still makes sense for us. But yeah, I mean, our interest rate doubled this year with a refi. So,
So it's interesting, dude. I love this game. To me, self storage is very sexy. I like having everything under one roof. I say one roof, but really just like one area.
yeah.
It's interesting. I know there's pros and cons to everything, and you mentioned interest rates, but I like how you guys break it down, and you really were bootstrapping this thing. I could envision myself just like kind of riding along with you guys and like going through the motions of finding the first deal, the second, the third. I think you explain it well, and I can see how it's accessible for someone that has not done it at all. So, two questions for you, but one is, give me like 3 tips for someone starting out brand new that wants to get into self storage. Maybe they have a couple single family rentals or none at all, and they're just like, hey, I'm all in on self storage. What do I do next? Like right away.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously try and study the asset class. There's so many resources out there now. AJ Osborne, once again, was a big one when I got started. He's still in the space. He has a podcast. There's Bigger Pockets published a book. So just trying to do the research there. We call it secret shopping a little bit. So if once again, I would advise cold calling, once again, looking for the facilities that have terrible Google reviews, have no websites. I mean, that's the opportunity. But secret shopping, find a facility, and then you kind of can go around to other facilities acting like you're going to be a customer, basically, and trying to get a price of what other facilities are pricing their units at to see if there's a value add from the one you may be looking at. And of course, I have a business partner going 50-50 if you have someone you trust. Obviously, a big thing always is finding the deal, having the capital, and talking to a lender. I mean, it's pretty standard commercial lending. Of course, you could always do an SBA loan as well. But having a partnership, of course, as you guys know, just helps a lot. I mean, I would not be able to do what I've done with this portfolio in any manner without my partner. So
I love it, man. Yeah, it's true. It's a superpower to say the least. It's worth the 50-50. You're sharing 50% of the risk, but
100%.
at the end of the day, it's 50% more fun. That's how I look
Yeah.
at it. So, that came off the dome right there. So
That was nice.
Trademark.
That was nice.
One of my last questions for you here, dude, is I kind of want to get into some of the fun stuff because I'm sure there's horror stories and crazy things. So I'll start here. What's the craziest thing you found in one of the units? If you found anything crazy.
Oh man. Honestly, people always envision it like Storage Wars that you've seen on TV, right? If we get to the point where we have to auction off a unit, I mean, I was just down there checking in on our facilities, opened up a couple that the people are 3-4 months behind on rent. It's always just junk. It's literally clothes, moldy mattresses, stuff you can't even do anything with. There's no value. So I think we've really, in our whatever 4 years of doing this, we've only had one storage unit that had like some commercial kitchen equipment that we actually made our money back from what we were owed. It's always junk. But a funny thing is, we have cameras on site. Obviously, that's something I would definitely recommend as well if you're looking to do remote management of like a facility out of town, that you don't live there. Cameras are huge just to have eyes on the property. So when we first got started, we've had a couple instances where people are literally living in the units. So the lease doesn't state you can do that. It's technically trespassing, but the first time we saw it here in Missouri, it gets freezing in the winter. I mean, this thing it's our first facility. It's a wood frame. It's not insulated that well, and it's just concrete slab, right? And we see this guy on the cameras at like 2 a.m. hopping the fence with his dog from the inside. I'm like, well, clearly he's living there. So then we had to get the cops involved, and this guy just had the whole thing rigged, with like a propane tank, a mattress, and he's just a $70 a month mortgage, just living in a storage unit in the dead of winter when it's 0 degrees. So
People get crafty, man. That's cool. I was, we've had some guys on here told us they found dead bodies at their units and just crazy stuff. So I didn't know if you had anything that crazy, but having someone living in one of the units that for $70 a month, hey man, that's cushy.
yeah,
So
yeah, I can't think of anything too crazy we've seen. I've had like a phone call from ATF before, with they're like basically had a warrant that this guy was potentially having like drugs and guns in this unit. They came and cleared out the unit even without us there. So I never heard too much from that, but a phone call from ATF, I was like, is this real or am I getting pranked right now? So
feel like the FBI sent you. Yeah, it's hey man, it's good though. I'm glad you don't have any war stories,
yeah.
to say the least. So
I got some.
I think you got some.
Yeah, I got some. It's always amazing to me what people keep too, like moldy mattresses and carpets and stuff. I'm like, dude, it feels so good for me to like purge and get stuff out of my house. I'm like, I don't know if it's just a personal thing, but like I try to have the least amount of stuff as possible. And if I haven't like worn a shirt for like 3 years, I just like Goodwill, right? Like I'm not throwing it out, but I'm donating it. It's just amazing how much people keep. It's like, and I forget who we had on, right? I forget the guy's name. He was an older gentleman, probably in the 60s or 70s. And he wrote a book and he was like, America's obsession with stuff. They just have an obsession with stuff. And that's why that there's always this market in this recession proof environment for storage. Cause people just, for whatever reason, don't want to get rid of those moldy mattresses or whatever.
Yeah. And honestly, people are kind of creative when it comes to it. I mean, if you really think about it, hiring like a junk removal service or hiring some sort of junk removal company to come take mattresses, it's probably cheaper to haul it to the storage facility, pay 1 month and never pay again. And it's on us. So people have beat the system a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good point. I didn't even think of that. The professional tenants are professional storage tenants as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, of course.
One of the questions I have for you, and the last ones I like to ask is, dude, so you are how old now? Are you 30 yet?
I just turned 29. Yeah.
All right, yeah, you said that, 29. So you're 29 years old. You have this knack for this growth and this, house hacking to buying rentals to buying storage. And there's not a lot of people that are 29 that can say they've done what you've done. I mean, in terms of the actual real estate, you're further along than Ryan and I. And I think I'm always intrigued by people who have this. And the question is, I'm going to ask what it is, like this, why, like if you could pinpoint what the thing is that keeps you motivated, that is like the reason behind doing what you do, because it's not easy. Is there something that you could point to as like your overarching why, or like, the fire that you got, burning there?
Yeah, no, I think it's just, once again, it's a inner self motivation to be able to create the life you want, to do what you want, when you want, where you want, type thing. So, I mean, looking back, once again, 2019, I was graduating college with a nursing degree, getting ready to be a full-time registered nurse in the ICU. You buy the first house hack. And at that point, you kind of start to set some goals. I'm like, okay, I wouldn't call myself an investor yet. I have one house, buy the second one. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm an investor and I'm going to keep buying these houses. That's the game plan, because it just made sense. It makes sense. Real estate does. It's a tangible asset. You can predict, for the most part, the cash flow, and the equity that's going to happen over time versus, just dumping money into the stock market, and hoping you catch a bull market. So, when I first got started, I kind of just set this internal goal of, I was 23 at the time, of by 30, can I become a millionaire? Can I have 7-figure net worth? And can I have 5K a month in net free cash flow? Because I think I'd be very content. with that. So that was the initial goal. Obviously, finding these first couple storage facilities, I didn't know that was part of the plan. Like I had mentioned, I knew I was going to buy real estate, didn't quite know what asset class, buying the single families. At one point, I still have 5 single families in my portfolio as well, but built it up to about 4 of them. And then got the self storage bug, and then just that one phone call really scaled things up to the point of, yeah, now I'm 29, have basically doubled the numbers on that initial goal of, becoming a multimillionaire at 29, having literally 14,000 a month in net free cash flow coming in, but still working a day job. This allowed me to quit nursing. It wasn't that I hated nursing, didn't fully, not enjoy it. It was just I was working night shift, sleep deprived. There's just more out there. And becoming a realtor, it wasn't supposed to be a full-time gig. Honestly, I just thought I was going to save on commissions myself. But now it's, to the point where, doing a couple million in sold volume a year. All this just came from the fact I just wanted to create this cash flow goal that would literally set me up to be able to, once again, travel when I want. I never have to take PTO. I am my own boss. And just, yeah, live a life that's exceptional. So
I think it's, yeah,
That's
it
amazing.
is amazing. Yeah. I think it's remarkable to think that you can accomplish this in that short time frame. And I think it's because you wrote it down. I think it's because you put it on paper. I think it's because you were saying, this is this thing that I want to do. Most people don't do that, or they think about it in their head, but actually seeing it on paper and working towards the goal. For me, it was game changing for Ryan and I tell the story sometimes. I look at our goal list. We have to do another one for this year, but we accomplished all the goals that we wrote for last year just by having them written down. And there is some power in that. And I think most people don't realize that buying bigger deals isn't actually significantly harder. It's maybe a little bit harder on certain things, but they think that the way that I got to do this is go buy 100 single family properties. And once you realize that after you get to 5, 6, 7, you kind of run out of your own money. You're like, what should I do? You have that baseline of that portfolio that is beneficial to have because you learn the game, but then scaling up is not that much more difficult. And I think if more people realize that, and maybe from listening to this episode, they would understand that this is possible. Steven, you seem like a smart guy, but hopefully people are listening and they're like, Steven's not that much smarter than me. I could figure this out too. And that's the goal, honestly, because that's what it makes me think of. Go ahead, Rod.
it's so possible. I mean, I'm not handy at all, right? People, that's a concern for some people. The single family world, especially, having to fix toilets, stuff like that. I can barely change a light bulb. I don't do any handy work. My business partner, luckily in the storage world, is a little bit handier than me. But yeah, you just got to find your kind of niche and find, what you're good at. For me, it was finding deals and acquisitions. Just love crunching numbers. So.
Dude, that's a superpower in itself, right? I think a lot of the time it's the real superpower, if you will, is what's between your ears, right? And it's your brain and how you're willing to endure certain things. I know that finding the first deal, second, third, seventh, right, all of this while maintaining the W-2 job, it takes consistency, discipline, fortitude. There's so many things in there that you really can't explain, right? We try to ask the right questions to pull that out of people, right? When we get on these podcasts, it's so cool to learn about people. They look just like us, right? We all could easily be going grabbing a couple of drinks, hanging out, watching some football, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's what you do behind closed doors and when you get home. And you've obviously built out a schedule, you've juggled both things. So I think it's amazing, man. Last question I have for you, because a lot of people get into the game and they start hearing about other investors that are successful, building these things out and picking their strategy. But you mentioned you became a realtor, right? And an agent. And so I wanted to talk about that and how that parlays into your story and plays a role, because you're toting this line of, hey, I have a big real estate portfolio and now I still have a W-2 job, right? There's a juggling act there, but they're in synergy because it's all in real estate in some form or fashion, right? So Corey and I are both getting our licenses. He's probably a little bit further along than me because it's just going to help our business, potentially 10x. So my question for you, walk me through how this kind of plays a part in the overall trajectory of your career, how you see your wealth building journey going.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I was nursing, never really crossed my mind to get my license. I had actually made an offer on a duplex here in Kansas City. And the agent, it was like a seller finance deal. I tried to pitch to the seller. And the listing agent was like, wow, this is kind of impressive for your age. What's your story? Have you thought about getting your license? I was like, well, I'll give it a shot. Simple enough. I know all the terminology and the ins and outs of it from buying a few properties already. So went and got the license here in Missouri. And yeah, the goal initially was just to save on commissions if I were to find on-market deals, which is an opportunity if you're an investor, right? If you come across a multifamily deal, maybe the numbers are a little bit tight. You could ask for a commission to be baked into like a seller paid credit, a price reduction, because the seller's likely paying some sort of buyer agent commission anyways. And it just saves you money. Right now, I'm selling one of my single family homes and I represent myself. So that saves you, 3% of the sales price representing yourself. And then when it comes to, buying like a storage facility, I'm able to kind of talk them through a contract and the ins and outs of what we see, helping other people, house hackers. Now I've done it. I think that's why I've had a decent amount of success as an agent getting started. People call me and they're like, what's your story? I'm like, I'm an investor friendly agent here. And they're like, really? I'm like, well, this is what I've done. This is how you can do it. I think they have a level of trust with me because they've seen that I actually do it myself as well. So
it's very cool, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think as we kind of wind down the show here, one of the reasons Rye mentioned we're getting our licenses, we've been referring out like so much business because we know so many agents in so many different markets. And I was like, well, there's a whole business in the referral game too. And maybe we'll end up pursuing the actual like, showing houses and being the agent, but just to get it for us to have, because we have a mentorship program. We teach people how to buy their first or next rental property. And there's like, we're helping people do it, like every single month there's new people buying properties, and it's beneficial for us to be able to make sure that we have, it holds us accountable to the agreements too. And just sending people in the right direction on the referral side. So that's, I can appreciate you. I didn't even think about it for our own purchasing of real estate, to be honest. I don't know why. So
yeah. And it's just a source of active income, right? I prefer to keep the equity and the cash flow myself if I can. That requires, not having to raise capital. So that requires our own funds. Obviously, we have like a line of credit on some equity we use here and there. In my late 20s, I think I'd be bored if I truly wasn't working. I mean, I know you guys are creating sort of an education platform, but I feel like most people, they need some source of active income to go buy real estate to create the passive income. So being an agent has just become my active income that I dump into commissions. And of course, don't forget about real estate professional status. Massive incentive, on these storage facilities. We do cost segregation studies. Throw that in with a real estate professional status, and you won't be paying taxes, I promise.
Yeah, we just found out that this year, 2024 was like the biggest year for Ryan and I to realize like, oh, okay, now, like it took 5 years. We're like, now I get the tax benefits of real estate. Like it was very minimal before, but this year I was like, we saved tens and tens of thousands of dollars on our taxes. I was like, yeah,
compound.
This is great. So dude, this is great. You're really easy to talk to. I know that you said you don't do a lot of podcasts, but my suggestion was that you should start doing more because you're good at it. You can tell your story really succinctly, and I think a lot of people will resonate with you. I don't know what it is about these Midwest guys, but they're really nice, and it's hard to talk shit about the Eagles. You make me not want to because we're a little rough around the edges here in Philadelphia, so it's like.
I feel like you've gotten worse with age, dude. You never used to be like this. I'm talking shit about the Birds guy, and like, of course, Steven comes in here. He's just chill. He's like, "Yeah, man, it is what it is." I'm more like Steven, right? I grew up in New England. We got 7, baby. I count the Tampa Bay one too. So I'm like, whatever.
It's not whatever to us, dude. We don't win Super Bowls that often, so that's why I'm just representing.
That's why people stop liking you, is because then you have to like overcompensate, right? It's like, just chill, baby. No, it's fine. No, you got 2.
We've had a good run. It was a sad day this past. But we had a good run.
100%.
So.
100%.
All good, man. It's all good. But Steven, I want to echo Corey's point. You are awesome at this. This was a fun conversation. We've had a couple self-storage guys on here, not to knock them, but you really you painted the picture so concisely. And I feel like genuinely anyone that wants to pursue this can, as long as they have the right head on their shoulders. So thank you for joining us. If people want to get in touch, maybe network, pick your brain a little bit, or maybe they're looking to buy a place down in Missouri, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah. Facebook, just Stephen May. And then Instagram, I'm fairly active on LinkedIn as well. Instagram, it's just Stephen May _real estate. I'll drop some contact info with you guys to put in the notes. And yeah, happy to chat with anybody as much as I can. So
love it, man. This has been great. We appreciate your time and looking forward to staying in touch.
Thanks, Stephen.
All right, guys. Cheers. Appreciate you having me on.